Welcome to my winter lair. It's blowing old boots up by Scotland. We've got storm something or other, Caroline I think it is, beating the daylights out of the northern sea areas. Down here on the channel it's only been blowing force 9, so up in the New Forest where we are it's not too bad at all. I wouldn't want to be down off St Catherine's Point, but we're fine here. Well, it's horrible, horrible weather. The middle of winter, early December, grey. The sun hardly seems to get over the horizon here in England, and well, I'm sitting indoors enjoying the art that surrounds me. I have simple pleasures really, and the paintings I've got and the pieces of art that I carry are not huge money or anything like that. They're just things that have given me delight, and everyone seems to have a little story to tell. I'm a bit of a sucker for paintings. I'm always buying them when I'm out and about. So I thought I'd just share one or two of them with you this winter. There might be some more to come, but today we're going to have a look at 3 of them. Each has a little story to tell, and here's the first. This is a painting of my old boat Western Man. She's in the Rio Guadiana between Spain and Portugal, and I've put that one up first because it's just the most lovely sunny picture. You can feel the heat. The wind is blowing up from the Mediterranean, or from the approaches to the Mediterranean. You can see the wind on the water. The boat's straining to a cable, and that wind is red hot. It's come all the way from Africa. We spent some time down there on our way to Tangier many years ago, and we ran into an old friend called Richard Soman, who is a painter. That's what he does. And he'd gone down there looking for some nice light in his boat. He'd sailed down. He was a shipmate really. He came from way back when. I first met him on Jolly Breeze back in the 70s, but we won't go there. That's another story. And he was living on his boat painting pictures. And we got alongside, and the weather wasn't good outside. It was blowing, as I say, old boots. So we decided we'd stay there, and we stayed for 10 days. And I don't think I've ever been so hot in all my life, including Brazil in the tropics in the summertime. It was absolutely steaming. We couldn't do anything in the afternoon, it was so hot. But we had a wonderful time. We'd get into Richard's old heap of a car, and we'd go staggering off up country, and we found wonderful, beautiful girls making pots in the middle of nowhere, and we bought these little pots off them. We brought them home, and I had my breakfast out of them every morning. There's so much on that trip that I remember. We ended up in North Africa, and we had all sorts of adventures in Tangier. But to see Western Man sitting on the river there in the middle of all that wind, you can feel the heat when you look at that picture. There's nothing growing on that mountain. It's all been scorched to pieces, nothing left. And apart from the actual river itself, all the tributaries were dried out. They were just beds of stones. And we walked there with our friend Richards, who understood it all. He knew it. He knew the people. When we went to the bar to have a beer, which cost us, may I tell you, 30 pence for a beer, we sat down and all the old boys came and chatted to him. How were things going? It was a grand thing, and it was nice to see an English guy down there mixing in with the locals and painting us that wonderful picture to remember it by. Well, what are we going to see next? I think we'll have a look at Kate Richardson's wonderful creation here. I'm going to walk round the back of you into the other corner of the room. Now, will you have a look at this? You don't see many paintings like that. My friend Kate Richardson is the daughter of Tom Richardson, who is my age, and Tom runs the Elephant Boatyard. He inherited it from his father, who started it from nothing in the years after World War II. He literally dug it out of the mud. The Elephant Boatyard's at the top of the Hamble River, and if you've got a wooden boat, there's nowhere better to go to get yourself sorted out. It's right by the Jolly Sailor, so you're handy for a pint when you're sweated at the end of your day. And I met Kate first when she was a little girl toddling around the yard, and I saw her grow up there, and I saw her as a young woman meeting Craig Nutter, Lightning to his friends, who had recently completed a round the world race on the old Whitbread scene with Laurie Smith. They went round on Rothmans, and they fell in love and they married. And Kate had inherited a talent for art from her father. I always think, Tom wouldn't want me to say this, but I always think Tom Richardson's a frustrated painter really. He paints beautifully and he loves to do it, and he passed that on to Kate, and Kate has got a real talent. She paints boats in an unusual way. They're all Kate. You can tell straight away when you see a Kate picture. And Kate and Craig went to live on the Isle of Wight together. Craig runs the yard in the Medina yard, and Kate paints. And a boat was in the yard that was being stripped down. It was a wooden boat being taken to pieces and rebuilt. Fedora, her name was. She was a real classic, quite a big boat, all planked in teak. And as the planks came off her, the dodgy planks, some of them were, Craig looked at them and he thought, "Do you know, these are lovely pieces of wood. I haven't got it in me to throw these in the skip or burn them. We'll see what we do with them." And Kate was passing by and she saw this one. She said, "Do you know, if we sawed that up, I could make something really special out of it." You know, that's the artist, isn't it? It's amazing how these people see things that the rest of us don't. And she picked out these pieces of plank. You can see where the fastenings went through them. And she painted this lovely series of images of yachts sailing. They're ethereal, these yachts. They could be anything, could be any yacht at all, couldn't they? You don't even know what tack they're on because you can't see whether it's the front or the back. But it doesn't matter because it's the feel of a yacht on the sea and the nice little change of images, and the colours were perfect. And I don't know who put them in this frame, but I suspect that might have been Craig, but whoever it was, he did a great job. And that's how we first saw him on the Isle of Wight. Kate had a bit of an exhibition and we'd actually gone for lunch with her and Craig, and we thought we'd have a look at the exhibition, so we went, and here I go, good old sucker Tom again, sees a painting, gotta have it. It had to go here. I knew this bit of war was waiting for something, and when I saw this painting, well, there it was, and there it is. Fedora's planks, good big solid pieces of teak with lovely paintings from Kate Richardson on it. Really special. I thought we'd finish off this morning by having a look at this one. This has got a tale to tell, if ever a painting had. This is Herta rafted up to Jolly Breeze, the Le Havre pilot cutter. Jolly Breeze is the big mast with the top mast. She's a bit bigger than Herta. Herta's in front. They're stem to stern and they're rafted up on two piles in the Beaulieu River. And that's where we were living when we first came back from our last big ocean cruise, where we've been living on the boat for years, sailing the seas. And we came back and we lived at Beaulieu. And I had myself a motorbike and I was away in North Wales teaching people how to sail. I used to get on the old 750 Honda and blast off up the road, no fairing, no nothing, and arrive in North Wales, and I was doing teaching there for old Bob Bond at the Welsh National Sailing Centre, and was painting the top sides of the boat. She was in the little dinghy here and she was working her way down the top sides, rubbing them down. She must have had arms like a gorilla by the time she'd finished, because the boat was 51 feet long, big old boat. Lovely pilot cutter, 1911 vintage. And as she was working on the boat, she saw this chap on the towpath pushing a bicycle, and he was looking out. He was obviously looking at her. Well, she's a good-looking girl, and she was quite used to that. But this chap seemed to be taking more interest than usual. And after a while, he put his hands to his mouth and he shouted out. He said, "Hey, do you want me to paint your boat?" Well, what are you going to say? She said, "Yes, please, I'll come and get you." So she rowed ashore, piled the chap into the boat, who turned out to be a young New Zealander by the name of Simon. And Simon got in the boat, she brought him out, she gave him a cup of tea, and it turned out that he'd got no intention of wielding the 4-inch brush and doing the top sides. His plan was to make a piece of art out of the boat. And what he did, he was living in a bivouac in the New Forest, a tiny little tent. His bike was all he'd got, his push bike, and he had an easel strapped under the crossbar. And he used to go around painting things, and with a bit of luck he'd sell the painting, and if he didn't he could save it, and somehow he got them back to New Zealand. And he painted our boat. And we became great friends with him. He took several days over it. He was a really, really careful man. And if you look at that painting, there isn't a single thing wrong with anything about those boats. They are absolutely spot on. The rig is perfect. The rig of Jolly Breeze is just as it should be. He did a great, great job. And we hadn't got a bean in those days. We were absolutely skint. I was earning my living as a sailing instructor, as I say. We lived on the boat. We'd no other home. But my dear old mother, who wasn't to be that long for the world, she said to me, she said, "Do you know," she said, "that's a lovely painting that young man's done for you. I'll buy it for you." And she bought it from Simon and had it framed up, and we've had it ever since. And that would have been 1986 or 87 when this painting was painted. And it reminds me of those days in our middle years when we were fit, full of the joy of living on the river, on the boat. Our daughter used to row ashore in this little boat every morning and go to school in the village school in Beaulieu. And what happy days they were. And now I have the painting, and every day I look at it and reminds me of Simon the Kiwi and his bike and his easel and his bivouac and the lovely time I had with the girls I loved living on the river.